Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, where small change turns into big surprises. If you love coins, collecting, or uncovering the hidden treasures that might be sitting right in your pocket, then you're in the perfect place. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting modern coins from the United States, the 2023 Washington Quarter Dollar. You may think it's just another ordinary coin, one that you use every day or barely notice when you get it back as change. But here's the truth, some of these 2023 quarters are already becoming highly sought-after collector's items, and depending on their type, mint mark, and condition, they could be worth far more than just 25 cents. So stay tuned until the very end, because we're going to reveal a jaw-dropping price that one of these coins reached in an official auction, and you won't believe just how valuable a recent quarter can be. Let's start by setting the scene. The Washington Quarter has been a cornerstone of American coinage since 1932, originally created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the decades, the design has evolved through many generations, from the classic eagle reverse of the mid-20th century, to the state quarters, then to the national parks, and now, the incredible American Women Quarters program that started in 2022 and continues through 2025. The 2023 quarter belongs to this exciting series, and each design tells a unique story about remarkable American women who made an impact on the nation's history, culture, and progress. Now, before we get into the value and rarity, let's talk about what makes the 2023 Washington quarters so visually striking. On the obverse side, or the front of the coin, we have a bold new portrait of George Washington, designed by Laura Garden Fraser, one of the most accomplished sculptors in American history. This design isn't new. In fact, it was originally created back in 1931 for the first Washington quarter, but it was passed over at the time. After 90 years, it's finally been given the honor it deserves. Washington faces to the right, with a strong and elegant expression that captures both the power and grace of America's founding father. Above him, the words "Liberty" stretch proudly across the top, while "In God We Trust" appears just to the left of his chin. The date 2023 and the mint mark, whether it's a P, D, or S, can be found near the bottom edge. Flip the coin over, and you'll find something truly special, the reverse design that changes with each release in the American Women Quarters program. In 2023, 5 remarkable women were featured, each one with a story that celebrates courage, leadership, and the power of change. These include Bessie Coleman, the first African-American and Native American woman pilot; Edith Kanaka, a cultural icon from Hawaii who preserved traditional hula and language; Eleanor Roosevelt, the beloved First Lady and human rights activist; Jovita Idar, the Mexican-American journalist and educator who fought for equality; and Maria Tallchief, America's first major prima ballerina. Each design captures their legacy in incredible artistic detail, making the 2023 quarters not just coins, but miniature works of history and inspiration. The materials used to make these quarters also play an important role in their value. Most 2023 Washington quarters are made from a clad composition, that's copper sandwiched between layers of nickel, giving them a silvery shine. But collectors should know that special versions, known as proof coins and silver proofs, were struck for collectors by the San Francisco Mint. These proof coins have mirror-like finishes, sharper details, and sometimes even a 99.9% silver composition. These are not the coins you'll find in your pocket change, they're collector's editions, often sold directly by the U.S. Mint. But if you happen to find one or acquire one in perfect condition, their value can be several times higher than face value, depending on their rarity and demand. Now, let's get to one of the most exciting parts, the mint marks and their importance. The 2023 quarters were minted in 3 main facilities: Philadelphia, P, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced the coins meant for everyday circulation, while the San Francisco Mint created proof and silver versions. But here's the twist, even within those millions of circulating coins, there are rare examples that stand out because of minting errors, die cracks, or double strikes. These small mistakes, often invisible to the naked eye, can transform a common 25-cent coin into something worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors have already discovered some fascinating 2023 quarter errors, including die chips that make parts of the design appear thicker or raised, double dies that show slight repetition in the lettering or features, and even off-center strikes, where the entire design is slightly shifted. Each of these errors tells a story about how the coin was made, and the more unique the mistake, the more valuable the coin becomes. Imagine this: you're going through your spare change, and one coin catches your eye. You turn it over and notice something odd. Maybe the letters in Liberty look doubled, or Washington's face has a strange texture. That could be your clue that you're holding a rare error coin. Collectors around the world are on the hunt for these kinds of quarters right now, and the demand is only increasing. Another factor that dramatically affects a coin's worth is its condition, or grade. Coins that have been circulated, meaning they've been used in daily transactions, tend to have scratches, dull surfaces, and worn details. But coins that have never been spent, known as uncirculated or mint state (MS) coins, retain their original shine and details. When these coins are professionally graded by companies like PCGS or NGC, they receive a numerical grade on a scale from 1 to 70. The higher the number, the better the condition. A 2023 quarter graded MS68 or MS69 is considered extremely rare and can fetch surprisingly high prices at auction, especially if it comes from an early strike or has no visible imperfections. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the symbolism behind the Washington quarter itself. George Washington, the first President of the United States, has always been a representation of leadership, courage, and integrity. His image on the coin reminds us of the enduring values that shaped the nation: unity, liberty, and trust in a shared purpose. And with the addition of the American Women Quarters program, each coin now also tells the story of progress, equality, and the ever-evolving spirit of the American people. The 2023 series beautifully combines the old and the new, Washington's timeless presence paired with modern stories of empowerment. So, what makes the 2023 quarters stand out so much in the world of modern numismatics? It's a combination of artistry, innovation, and timing. These coins are relatively new, but collectors are realizing that certain early strikes, high-grade specimens, and unique error coins are going to become future classics. Just like how early state quarters or bicentennial quarters gained fame and value over time, these 2023 coins are starting to build that same reputation, and collectors who pay attention now might find themselves holding tomorrow's treasures. Think about it: a coin that costs just 25 cents to spend could actually be worth hundreds or thousands if you have the right one. That's the beauty of coin collecting. You never know what kind of hidden gem might be sitting in your wallet, coin jar, or change cup right now. Now, let's talk about the moment you've been waiting for: the real-world value. While most 2023 Washington quarters are still worth their face value, certain rare versions have already sold for truly incredible sums. One special 2023 quarter, in pristine mint state condition, with a stunning strike and a verified double die error, was graded among the finest known examples. And when it hit the auction block, collectors went wild trying to get their hands on it. In the end, that single 2023 Washington quarter sold for an unbelievable $19,000, yes, $19,000 for a coin that most people would overlook as just another quarter. That's the magic of coin collecting, that thrill of discovery, that realization that even a modern coin, just minted a year or two ago, could already be worth a small fortune. So, if you've got a 2023 Washington quarter in your pocket or tucked away in your collection, take a closer look. Check the mint mark, study the details, and don't forget to examine it for errors or unusual features. You might just be holding the next big find in your hands. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked yet truly fascinating coins of modern American history, the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from 1995. At first glance, the 1995 quarter might look like just another everyday coin, the kind you toss into a vending machine or drop into a parking meter without a second thought. But hold on, because this particular year hides some incredible surprises that have stunned collectors across the country. Some of these 1995 Washington quarters are not just pocket change, they're miniature treasures worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their mint mark, strike quality, and unique minting errors. So, make sure to stick around until the very end, because we're going to explore everything you need to know about this coin, from its history, design, and composition, to the mysterious minting errors that can make a simple 25-cent coin worth a staggering amount. And of course, stay tuned because at the end, I'll reveal the unbelievable auction price that one of these coins reached, and trust me, it's a number that will blow your mind. Let's begin by going back in time for a moment. The year was 1995, a year that marked an important era in the United States mint's history. This was a transitional period, where technology in minting was improving rapidly, but human error still played a major role in creating some of the most interesting coin mistakes. The Washington quarter itself had already been around for over 60 years by that point. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the coin became one of America's most recognizable pieces of currency. Its classic portrait and patriotic symbolism made it a timeless icon, and by 1995, it was still carrying that proud tradition. Now, let's take a closer look at the design of the 1995 Washington quarter. On the obverse side, we have the elegant and powerful bust of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan. Washington's profile faces left, with the word Liberty curving proudly above his head. Just below his chin, you'll see the nation's guiding motto, "In God We Trust." Beneath the neckline lies the date, 1995, and right next to it, you'll find the mint mark, which tells us where the coin was made. For this year, there are three main mint marks: P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, and S for San Francisco. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the reverse design, one of the most iconic images in American coinage. It features a majestic bald eagle, wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing America's strength and readiness to defend its freedom. Beneath the eagle is an olive branch, a timeless representation of peace. Surrounding the design are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, along with the denomination quarter dollar. The 1995 Washington quarter was made primarily from a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel, giving the coin its silvery shine. However, for collectors, the proof versions struck at the San Francisco Mint are where things get truly interesting. Those proof coins were struck multiple times with specially polished dies, resulting in mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp details. These were never meant for circulation, they were made for collectors and came in special proof sets, but even among the millions of coins minted, not all 1995 quarters are created equal. In fact, there are a few that have become famous for their minting errors, and these are the coins that can transform an ordinary find into a small fortune. One of the most sought-after errors on the 1995 quarter is the doubled die. This occurs when the design is accidentally struck twice on the coin's die at slightly different angles. The result? You might notice doubled lettering on the words Liberty or In God We Trust, or even a subtle doubling on Washington's profile. These types of coins are extremely collectible because they're so visually unique, and the stronger the doubling, the more valuable the coin. Another type of error that collectors hunt for is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the metal disc used to make a coin, is misaligned during the striking process. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted to one side. Some of these can be off by just a few %, while others can be so extreme that part of the coin is blank. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin tends to be. Then there are die cracks and cuts, which occur when the metal dies used to strike the coins develop small fractures or breaks. These create raised lines, bumps, or blobs of metal on the finished coin. While these may seem like imperfections, they're actually fascinating to collectors, because they make each coin one of a kind. Some 1995 quarters show die cracks running across Washington's face, his hair, or the letters, and depending on how visible they are, they can significantly increase a coin's worth. Let's not forget about wrong planchet errors, where a quarter was accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different coin, like a nickel or a dime. These are extremely rare but have been documented in modern U.S. coinage. Imagine finding a 1995 quarter that's the wrong color, weight, or metal composition. That's the kind of discovery that collectors dream about. Now, even without errors, the condition of the coin can make a huge difference in its value. Circulated coins, the ones that have been passed around, rubbed, and worn, are generally worth face value. But coins that have never been used, known as uncirculated or mint state (MS) coins, are where the real value lies. These coins are graded by professional organizations like the PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or the NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. The grading scale ranges from 1 to 70, and a coin that scores MS 67, MS 68, or higher is considered an absolute gem. These high-grade coins display perfect luster, sharp details, and no visible scratches or marks, making them incredibly desirable. So, how do you tell if you have a valuable 1995 Washington quarter? First, check the mint mark. Quarters from the Philadelphia, P, and Denver, D, mints are common, but high-grade examples can still bring strong prices. The San Francisco, S, mint produced proof coins, which often have a deep mirror finish. Next, look closely at the coin's surface under good lighting, or even with a magnifying glass, for any unusual features like doubling, cracks, or off-center strikes. Collectors and treasure hunters across the country are constantly searching through rolls of quarters, hoping to find one of these special coins. And with millions of coins still in circulation, it's entirely possible that you could find one of these rare varieties in your own change. Now let's talk about something that always excites every coin collector: the market value. Over the years, prices for certain 1995 quarters have climbed significantly, especially for high-grade and error coins. For instance, a normal 1995 P or 1995 D quarter in circulation might only be worth its face value, but an uncirculated one in top mint condition could sell for several dollars, even up to hundreds depending on its grade. Proof coins, especially those with cameo contrast, can fetch even more. But the real stars are those rare, high-grade examples with visible minting errors or doubled dies. And now, it's time for the big reveal, the moment you've been waiting for. Among all the 1995 Washington quarters discovered and graded, there was one special coin that stood above the rest. It was a pristine, mint state 68 example with a stunning strike, brilliant luster, and near-flawless surfaces. Collectors were astonished by its perfection. When it was placed for auction, the bidding war was fierce, and the final hammer price left everyone speechless. That single 1995 Washington quarter sold for an astonishing $10,400, yes, $10,400 for a single quarter that originally cost just 25 cents. That's the magic and mystery of coin collecting. You never really know what kind of treasure you might be holding until you look a little closer. So, the next time you get change from a store, don't just toss those quarters aside. Take a closer look. You might have a 1995 Washington quarter hiding in plain sight that could be worth thousands. Check the details, the shine, the mint mark, and the edges, because sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest surprises. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked yet historically important coins of the 20th century, the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from 1971. At first glance, this might look like any ordinary quarter you've seen hundreds of times before. Maybe it's one you used in a parking meter or dropped into a vending machine years ago. But here's the thing, the 1971 Washington quarter hides secrets that most people have never noticed. Some of these coins contain minting errors, rare conditions, and small variations that can make them worth far more than their 25-cent face value. In fact, some rare examples of the 1971 quarter have fetched thousands of dollars at auctions. So, make sure to watch until the very end, because I'll reveal exactly how much the rarest 1971 Washington quarter sold for, and I promise, the price will shock you. Now, let's rewind the clock to the early 1970s, a fascinating time in American history. The Vietnam War was still ongoing, the Apollo space missions had recently reached their peak, and the U.S. economy was going through rapid changes. Amidst all of that, the U.S. Mint continued producing one of the country's most iconic coins, the Washington quarter. The 1971 issue came right after a major transition in U.S. coinage, the switch from silver to copper nickel-clad coins that had begun in 1965. This change marked the end of silver circulating quarters and the rise of the modern quarter we still use today. The Washington quarter itself, first introduced in 1932, was originally meant to commemorate the 200th birthday of the first U.S. President, George Washington. The design by sculptor John Flanagan became instantly recognizable and has remained a beloved symbol of American history ever since. By 1971, the design had already been in circulation for nearly 40 years, and even though it looked familiar, there were subtle differences from earlier years that make the 1971 issue special to collectors. Let's take a closer look at the design and features of this coin. On the obverse side, you'll see the left-facing portrait of George Washington, a figure of strength and dignity. Above his head, the word Liberty stretches across the top edge, while the motto, "In God We Trust," rests just to the left of Washington's neck. Beneath his neckline is the year 1971, and to the right of the date, you'll often find a small mint mark, either a D for the Denver Mint or, in some cases, no mark at all, which means it was minted in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the bold and powerful image of an American bald eagle, wings spread wide in a display of majesty. The eagle grips a bundle of arrows in its talons, a symbol of America's strength and readiness to defend itself, while beneath it rests an olive branch, representing peace. Above the eagle are the words, United States of America, along with the motto, E Pluribus Unum, and at the bottom, the denomination, $quarter. Now, the composition of this coin is another interesting detail. The 1971 Washington quarter was made from a copper-nickel clad composition, meaning it's a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. This gives it that familiar silver-like shine but makes it much less valuable in metal content compared to its earlier 90% silver predecessors from before 1965. However, some rare 1971 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets, blank discs that should have been phased out years earlier. These rare silver-era quarters are among the most sought after by collectors, and they can command enormous prices at auction. But there's even more that makes the 1971 quarter fascinating. Like many coins of the 1970s, there were plenty of minting errors and die varieties that occurred during production, and these are what really make this coin stand out to collectors today. Let's start with one of the most famous types of errors, the double die obverse. This error occurs when the coin's design is accidentally struck twice at slightly different angles, causing certain parts of the lettering or design to appear doubled. On a 1971 Washington quarter, you might see this doubling on the word Liberty, the motto, In God We Trust, or even in the finer details of Washington's face or hair. Coins with strong doubling can fetch huge prices, especially if they're in uncirculated condition. Another valuable type of error is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned with the dies during striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted. The more dramatic the off-center appearance, especially if the date is still visible, the more valuable the coin can be. Some 1971 quarters with extreme off-center errors have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. There's also the broad strike error, where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing the edges to expand slightly and lose the traditional reeded pattern. These are highly collectible because they stand out visually from normal quarters. Then there are clipped planchet errors, where a small portion of the metal blank was missing before the coin was struck. This creates a quarter with a bite missing from the edge, and collectors love these unique pieces of minting history. But perhaps the most exciting and mysterious error associated with the 1971 quarter is the wrong planchet strike, when the quarter was accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different coin, such as a nickel, dime, or even a foreign coin. These errors are incredibly rare and valuable because they represent once-in-a-lifetime minting mistakes. Now let's talk about mint marks and rarity. The 1971 Washington quarter was minted at two major locations, Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, with a D mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 109 million coins, while Denver minted around 258 million. These were large numbers, so the coin isn't rare in general circulation. However, high-grade examples, especially those graded MS67 or higher by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC, are very hard to find. That's because most of these coins were heavily circulated, meaning they picked up scratches, wear, and dulling over time. Finding one that has survived for over 50 years in perfect, untouched condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. collectors prize coins with sharp details, original luster, and no visible marks. These mint state coins can sell for impressive amounts. Proof versions of the 1971 quarter were also made at the San Francisco Mint, and they're recognized by their shiny, mirror-like surfaces and frosted designs. While most proof coins are worth modest premiums, any error or exceptional example can fetch much more. So how can you tell if you have a valuable 1971 Washington quarter? The first step is to carefully examine your coin under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Look for any signs of doubling on the lettering or Washington's profile. Check for mint marks, especially a clear D for Denver or no mark for Philadelphia. Then, feel the edges and observe the color of the coin's rim. A normal clad quarter will show a copper-colored line along the edge, but if you happen to find one that lacks this copper color and appears all silver, you may have one of those rare silver planchet error coins. That's the kind of discovery that can make your coin worth thousands. Collectors all over the world are constantly hunting for high-grade or error examples of the 1971 quarter. Coin shows, auctions, and online marketplaces regularly feature them, and when a rare one surfaces, the bidding can get intense. Over the years, prices have steadily climbed as collectors realize how difficult it is to find pristine examples from this era. Now, let's get to the most exciting part, the real-world value. Ordinary circulated 1971 quarters are still worth 25 cents, but when you step into the realm of high-quality, uncirculated, or error coins, that number skyrockets. A 1971 D quarter in mint state condition can bring anywhere from a few dollars to several hundred, depending on the grade. Proof examples from San Francisco can fetch similar or higher amounts. But when you factor in a rare error, such as a silver planchet strike or a strong double die, the prices can leap dramatically, and that brings us to the grand finale. Among the rarest and most pristine examples ever found, there was one 1971 Washington quarter that stunned collectors and dealers alike. It was a perfectly preserved coin, with extraordinary luster, flawless surfaces, and crisp details that almost seemed too perfect to be real. It was graded at an exceptional mint state 68 by professional graders, making it one of the finest known examples from that year. When it went up for auction, collectors from around the world competed fiercely to own it. The final hammer dropped, and this single 1971 Washington quarter sold for an unbelievable $11,200. Yes, that's right, $11,200 for a coin that most people would mistake for ordinary change, and that's what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every coin has a story, a mystery, and a possibility. That quarter sitting in your drawer, or that old change jar in your kitchen, could be holding a treasure waiting to be discovered. So before you spend it, take a closer look, because history, rarity, and value might just be hiding right in your hands. Today's journey takes us back to the year 1979, and we're about to uncover the incredible story, secrets, and surprising value behind the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from 1979. At first glance, the 1979 Washington quarter might look like a regular coin that's been passed through countless hands. You've probably seen thousands of them, used them for coffee, parking meters, or tossed them into fountains for luck. But here's what most people don't realize: some of these 1979 quarters are anything but ordinary. Hidden among the millions that were minted are rare varieties, minting errors, and high-grade specimens that have sold for jaw-dropping amounts at auctions. Yes, what looks like simple pocket change could actually be a collector's dream worth thousands of dollars. So, stick around till the end of this video because I'll reveal just how valuable the rarest 1979 Washington quarter can be, and I'll tell you exactly what to look for so you can check your own coins. Let's rewind history for a moment and set the stage. The year was 1979. The United States was facing economic shifts, inflation was rising, and the mint was producing billions of coins to meet the demands of an ever-changing economy. At that time, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for almost half a century. Originally designed in 1932 by sculptor John Flanagan, this iconic coin was created to honor the 200th birthday of America's first president, George Washington. The design became so beloved that it remained on the quarter for decades, through wars, recessions, and celebrations alike. Now, by 1979, the Washington quarter was fully part of the modern clad era. Gone were the days of silver coins. The last circulating silver quarters were struck in 1964. From 1965 onward, quarters were made using a copper-nickel clad composition, a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel, giving the coin its bright silvery look. The 1979 quarter continued this composition, but that doesn't make it any less collectible. In fact, some of the most valuable 1979 quarters are worth small fortunes because of their condition, mint mark, and rare errors. Let's take a closer look at this coin's design and what makes it so recognizable. On the obverse side, you'll see the noble and familiar bust of George Washington, facing left. His expression is calm but strong, a reflection of leadership and integrity. Above his head stretches the word liberty, and just below his chin is the national motto, "In God We Trust." Beneath Washington's neck, you'll find the date, 1979, and next to it, depending on where it was minted, a small mint mark, either P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or S for San Francisco. Flip the coin over to the reverse side, and you'll find one of the most classic American designs ever struck on coinage, a powerful bald eagle standing proudly with wings spread wide. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, representing defense and strength, while beneath it sits an olive branch, symbolizing peace. Surrounding this patriotic image are the inscriptions, United States of America, the national motto, E Pluribus Unum, and the denomination, $quarter. Now, let's talk about where these coins were made. In 1979, the Washington quarter was struck at three major mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint, represented by the P mint mark, though in 1979, some Philadelphia coins had no mint mark at all, produced hundreds of millions of these coins. The Denver Mint, marked with a D, also released a massive number of quarters into circulation. And then there's the San Francisco Mint, which struck proof coins, specially made coins with mirror-like finishes and sharp details, intended for collectors rather than circulation. But what truly makes the 1979 Washington quarter exciting are the minting errors and varieties that slipped through during production. These mistakes are what turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary, and potentially worth thousands. One of the most famous types of errors is the double die, where the coin's design elements are accidentally imprinted twice at slightly different angles. On a 1979 quarter, this can cause noticeable doubling on the letters in Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the numbers of the date, 1979. Coins with clear and dramatic doubling are highly collectible and can sell for hundreds or more depending on the strength of the doubling. Another sought-after error is the off-center strike, which happens when the metal blank, called a planchet, is not perfectly aligned in the coin press. The result is a quarter where part of the design is missing or shifted. Some off-center errors are subtle, but others are so extreme that a large portion of the coin is blank, and the more dramatic the error, the higher the value. Then there's the broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally shapes the edge. This creates a coin that's wider and flatter than normal, often with smooth edges instead of the usual reeded texture. These errors are rare and always attract collector interest, but one of the most fascinating and valuable types of error that occurred on some 1979 quarters is the wrong planchet strike, when a quarter was accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination, like a nickel, dime, or even a foreign coin. This kind of error is exceptionally rare and often discovered only after years of circulation. There's even another curiosity that makes certain 1979 quarters stand out, the proof coin varieties from the San Francisco Mint. Some of these proofs were struck with what collectors call a Type 1 or Type 2S mint mark. The Type 1S has a more blob-like shape, while the Type 2S is sharper and clearer. The Type 2 variety is rarer and commands a premium among proof coin collectors. Now, let's dive into what really makes collectors excited, the value. While a regular, worn 1979 Washington quarter from circulation is still worth just 25 cents, things change dramatically once you move into the realm of high-grade or rare examples. For circulated coins, the value remains low, but uncirculated examples, coins that have never been used, showing no wear and full mint luster, can be worth several dollars to even hundreds depending on the grade. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70. The higher the number, the closer the coin is to perfection. A 1979 Washington quarter graded at mint state 67 or higher can easily fetch hundreds of dollars because of its pristine condition. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint are another story. The 1979 S-Proof Type II is especially valuable because fewer were produced, and their striking quality is exceptional. Collectors love the deep mirror fields and frosted design contrast. Depending on the grade and demand, a perfect proof can bring in a surprising amount of money, but when it comes to rare minting errors, that's where the numbers start climbing dramatically. A strong double die, a severe off-center strike, or a wrong planchet coin can easily reach into the hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on rarity and visual appeal. And now, for the most exciting part, the record-breaking value that stunned collectors and investors alike. Among all the 1979 Washington quarters ever examined and graded, there was one particular coin that stood above the rest. It was an extraordinary mint state 68 specimen with blazing luster, near-flawless surfaces, and perfect strike details. It was the kind of coin that looked like it had been frozen in time since the day it was minted, no scratches, no wear, just pure brilliance. When this masterpiece of preservation hit the auction floor, collectors from across the nation battled fiercely for ownership. The bids climbed higher and higher until the final hammer fell. That single 1979 Washington quarter sold for an astonishing $6,400, yes, $6,400 for a coin that most people would never think twice about spending on a soda or a snack. And that's the beauty of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, and the possibility that the next valuable treasure could be sitting right in your change jar. The 1979 Washington quarter proves that every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth far more than their face value. So before you spend that next quarter, take a closer look. Check for doubling, inspect the edges, look for unusual colors or patterns, and always pay attention to the mint mark. You never know, you might just be holding a coin that could change your fortune. Today, get ready to dive deep into the world of one of the most fascinating coins from the mid-20th century, the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from 1967. At first glance, the 1967 Washington quarter might seem ordinary, a simple, silver-colored coin that has circulated through countless hands, from vending machines to gas stations. But behind that familiar design lies a piece of American history filled with mystery, transformation, and unexpected worth. Some of these quarters, depending on condition, errors, and rarity, have sold for incredible sums that no one would expect from a coin minted during an everyday year like 1967. Stay tuned until the very end, because I'll reveal just how valuable this coin can be, and trust me, it will absolutely shock you. Let's start by taking a step back into American history in the 1960s. A time of change, innovation, and evolution, not just for society, but for coinage itself. The Washington quarter had been circulating since 1932, designed by sculptor John Flanagan to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design remained consistent for decades, Washington's bold, noble profile on the front, and the fierce yet majestic eagle with spread wings on the back. But by the mid-1960s, something major was happening. Silver prices were skyrocketing. The rising cost of silver meant that the value of the metal inside coins was becoming more than the coin's face value. People began hoarding coins made of silver, especially dimes, quarters, and half-dollars. The U.S. Treasury realized it couldn't keep producing silver coins for circulation without risking huge financial losses. So in 1965, the mint made a historic change. Silver was removed from most circulating coins, including the quarter. The 1967 Washington quarter, therefore, belongs to the early era of what's known as the clad composition, a combination of a copper core layered with nickel on both sides, giving it a silvery appearance but without any actual silver content. This transition marked a turning point in U.S. coinage, and the 1967 quarter captures that moment in history perfectly. Now let's explore the design details that make this coin so iconic. On the obverse, we see the dignified portrait of George Washington. Facing left, The word liberty proudly stretches across the top, symbolizing the enduring American value of freedom. Just below Washington's chin are the words, "In God We Trust," a timeless reminder of faith and perseverance, and underneath the bust, the year 1967 is boldly engraved. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the majestic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, a symbol of strength and readiness to defend the nation, with olive branches beneath, symbolizing peace. Around this powerful image are the inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $quarter. But here's something interesting: if you've collected quarters from different years, you might have noticed something missing on the 1967 version. That's right, there is no mint mark. From 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint made the unusual decision to remove mint marks from coins entirely. Why? Because during the coin shortage of the 1960s, collectors were hoarding coins based on mint marks. To discourage hoarding and keep coins in circulation, the government decided to stop marking which mint they came from. So, even though the 1967 quarters were struck at multiple locations, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, none of them bear a mint mark. Every 1967 quarter looks identical in that regard. Now, let's talk about the production and quality. The Mint produced an enormous number of 1967 Washington quarters, hundreds of millions, in fact. They were struck using clad planchets made of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, with a total weight of 5.67 grams and a diameter of 24.3 millimeters. Because of this high production volume, finding a circulated 1967 quarter isn't hard at all. Most are worth just their face value, 25 cents, when worn and common, but here's where the story takes a thrilling turn. Within those millions of coins, there are hidden treasures, special coins that slipped through the minting process with unique errors, varieties, or exceptional preservation that make them extremely valuable to collectors today. Let's start with minting errors, because these are what make coin collectors' hearts race. Point 1: of the most sought-after errors for the 1967 quarter is the double die. This happens when the die used to strike the coin was accidentally engraved twice, slightly offset from the first strike. The result? Letters or numbers that look doubled, often visible on the date, 1967, or the words, Liberty and, In God We Trust. Strong double dies are rare and can fetch impressive prices, especially in uncirculated condition. Next, there's the off-center strike, a striking error that occurs when the coin blank isn't perfectly aligned in the press. This leads to part of the design being missing or misaligned. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin. Some extreme examples can show up to half the design missing, and collectors love those. Then there's the broad strike error, where the collar that holds the coin in place during minting fails, allowing the metal to spread out more than usual. This gives the coin a wider, flatter shape and smooth edges instead of the typical reeded texture. Another fascinating variety is the clipped planchet, where a piece of the coin's edge is missing because the metal sheet used to make the blanks was misfed into the cutting machine. These clipped planchet quarters are rare and instantly noticeable, adding a premium to their value. And then, there's the wrong planchet error, which is one of the most exciting discoveries in coin collecting. This happens when a quarter is struck on a planchet meant for another coin, such as a dime or a foreign coin. The coin ends up being smaller, thinner, or lighter than normal, and these kinds of mistakes are always worth serious money. Now, not every rare 1967 quarter owes its value to errors. Some owe it to condition. Most coins from 1967 went straight into circulation, bouncing around in pockets and cash registers for years. So finding one that has survived in pristine, untouched condition is incredibly difficult. That's why high-grade 1967 quarters graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC can sell for significant amounts. The grading scale runs from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin, flawless under magnification. For the 1967 Washington quarter, finding one in mint state 66, 67, or higher is very rare, and collectors pay top dollar for these top-quality examples. Another special type of 1967 quarter is the Special Mint Set, SMS, version. During this time, since there were no regular proof sets made for collectors, the U.S. Mint produced special mint sets instead. These coins were struck with higher pressure and better dies, resulting in sharper details and a satin-like finish. SMS quarters from 1967 are noticeably more detailed and lustrous than regular circulation strikes, and the finest examples of these can bring impressive prices, especially those with deep cameo contrasts, where the design appears frosted against a mirror-like background. Now, let's talk about what everyone wants to know: the value. For a normal, worn 1967 Washington quarter, the value is typically just 25 cents. In uncirculated condition, they can range from a couple of dollars to perhaps around $10 or $15 depending on quality, but here's where things get thrilling: when you find a high-grade special mint set 1967 quarter, one that has been perfectly preserved, displaying sharp strike quality, incredible luster, and virtually no blemishes, the value skyrockets. Collectors compete fiercely for these coins at major auctions, and when we're talking about the best of the best, those rare, nearly flawless quarters graded SP68 or SP69, the prices become absolutely astonishing. In one famous case, a pristine 1967 Washington quarter from a special mint set, with extraordinary eye appeal and stunning cameo contrast, was auctioned off for a record-breaking amount that left collectors speechless. That coin sold for an incredible $8,800. Yes, $8,800 for a single quarter from 1967. Just imagine finding one of those sitting in an old coin collection, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer. What most people would consider just another 25-cent coin could actually be a hidden fortune waiting to be discovered.